That's good. Sure.
All right, we are recording. So, hello, my name is Luke Angstadt. Welcome to our channel, our new YouTube channel. It's titled The Business of Esoteric Knowledge and Wisdom. My name again is Luke Angstadt. I live in Sarasota, Florida. I'm the author of a book called The Musings of De La Pew, which can be purchased on Amazon.com. It's about the nature of reality, the nature of God, human beings' place in the universe, and how all three of those are related. I also wanted to introduce my co-host here, Peter. And once Peter introduces himself, we're going to have our guest today, Gavin Burns in Las Vegas. He's a friend of mine, introduce himself as well. And then we're just going to go over the purpose of our channel. And then we are going to get into our next episode. So, Peter, I'll hand it off to you.
Hey, sorry, Luke. I just want to say, not for too long, that when you introduce yourself, it sounded to my ears like you're Luke Gangsta.
Luke Gangsta.
Luke, yeah, I heard
Luke
it's
Gangsta.
Luke Gangsta.
Yes.
Okay, no problem. So it's Pete or Peter Christian Rozovic or Rozovich. I was born in the most western pocket of the Soviet Union, because that's what Yugoslavia at that time was. And I lived in the United States of America for about 20 years of my life. So that's where the accent pretty much came from. Okay, this is, as Luke just said, this is the YouTube channel, which occupies with the nature of realities, because there are many of them, and the hidden realities, and what the reality is supposed to mean anyway. The nature of the demiurge, the demigods, the gods.
Peter, I have a little birdie on my shoulder, and he's telling me that it's your time to plug. There are 3 books you have for sale on Amazon.com. What are the titles of those 3 books?
Well, those books are entitled like Nikola Tesla, Third Reich, and the Extraterrestrials. That's the first one. The second one is named A Culture, and the third one is named The Mythologies of Techno World. And I have, several of the previous books, but they are not that commercial. What I focus on solely are those 3 beauties that make a series. So they're gonna bust the internet. They're gonna.
If they haven't already,
as well as yours.
Yes. So Gavin, Gavin is a friend of mine from Las Vegas, Nevada. We were roommates back in 2018. We had a lot of interesting conversations about artificial intelligence, among many other subjects. And just to reference our previous episode between Peter and myself, we were discussing AI, the relationship that human beings have with AI. Is it going to be a harmonious, symbiotic relationship that opens up frontiers that have been hitherto unimaginable to the human race, or is it going to be a more dark, ominous future where human beings are, goose stepping to some, extraterrestrial, interdimensional race of beings that would not even deign to make us their pets? So, I mean, I was a little bit pessimistic about a week ago, but Peter's brought me around to being a little bit more optimistic for the future in our relationship with AI. And before without any more further ado, and before I run off at the giblets, I want Gavin to introduce himself. And then we're going to go over the purpose of our show, and then we want to get into our next episode. So, Gavin, I give you the floor.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a book coming out, so I feel a little out of my depth here. But I mean, you pretty much just summed it up. We're roommates who like to, or were roommates who like to engage in philosophical ideas, and particularly around AI, nature of reality. Existentialism, all that stuff.
And Gavin never failed to Peter. Gavin never failed to blow my mind. Every time he opened his mouth, he blew my mind, and that's why I said I got to get Gavin on the show. And I know we're a little bit limited with time here for Gavin today, but wherever this goes today, I'd love to have you back on.
Oh, for sure, I'd love to do this again.
That's great. That's
hopefully
awesome.
With some more time, we can dive a bit deeper, because I mean, sometimes you and I would be talking for hours just in the hallway.
Mm-hmm.
hips and knees getting tired, but let's dig into it.
All right, so just to recap the purpose of our channel, again, our channel is titled The Business of Esoteric Knowledge and Wisdom, and the purpose of our channel is pretty much what I see it as overcoming global tyranny. I mean, I think the greatest threat to the human race, not just today but historically, is tyranny on a global scale, and it is a very old idea. I mean, we just when we look at the 20th century, obviously we have Aldous Huxley with his Brave New World, George Orwell with 1984, the entire life's work of Philip K. Dick, the great science fiction writer, upon which many Hollywood movies have been based upon. Obviously, Minority Report, Blade Runner, The Adjustment Bureau, the TV show, the Man in the High Castle, not to mention however many others. But this recurring idea of this creeping totalitarian fascist dictatorship is not unique to the year 2022. It's not unique to the 20th century. I mean, it's one of the basic premises of Plato's Republic, over 2,500 years ago. I mean, the most arguably the most influential book on Western thought is Plato's Republic. And in Plato's Republic, I mean, you got back in the day when people were wearing togas, the most pressing issue that those people had was that as societies become more and more free, and they called them democracies as well, but as a democracy became more and more free, the society became overwhelmed with choices, and it was almost a measure of their decadence as well, but that's kind of getting off topic. But as people became overwhelmed with choice, and this is in Plato's Republic, I mean, what Carl Jung referred to as the collective unconscious would actually demand a tyranny. And before we got to tyranny on the road from the freest societies we could possibly create, there would be an intermediate stage of chaos, which obviously we've been seeing that for the past 2 years, to say the very least, before society devolves into tyranny. So just to recap again, that's the purpose of our channel. It's a very old, ancient problem that has been plaguing the human race for centuries. I mean, stretching well into antiquity. So yesterday, Peter and I were discussing AI and the human race's relationship with AI, and whether or not the future is going to be a harmonious, symbiotic relationship with AI, or is it going to be a more ominous future where human beings are marching, goose-stepping in line to some vastly superior extraterrestrial interdimensional race of beings that just pretty much use us as their pets, or even not, or won't even condescend to consider the human race as their pets. And initially, I was a bit pessimistic, but listening to Peter, he gave me many reasons to be optimistic. Not least of which is, life finds a way. One way or another, life finds a way. We are here. The sun is shining. Gavin's in Las Vegas. The sun's shining there. The sun is probably shining in Serbia. I know it's shining here in Sarasota.
And he's probably go gambling.
Yeah,
he will gamble soon.
Yeah, and I know that Peter and I were on yesterday for about 2 hours. I wanted to give Gavin the first word here because I know a lot of our conversations back in 2018 touched upon artificial intelligence and the human race's uneasy relationship with it. And a lot has changed since 2018, but then again, a lot hasn't changed. But Gavin, I wanted to get your thoughts on what the future holds for human beings and AI.
There's too many variables, to be honest.
Okay.
What is the motivation of and I'm assuming by AI you guys mean AGI, like artificial general intelligence, because we already have artificial intelligence in a lot of the stuff that we use day to day. But in terms of some artificial overlord, right? That's what a lot of these guys, the futurists and stuff, are saying that we're building God, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is the motivation of an artificial intelligence? So I've heard the argument that they'll make us their pets and stuff, and it's like, why would they be motivated to make us our pets? Would they have the same motivations that human beings have? And I mean, you mentioned tyranny. I mean, like you said, tyranny's been part of history forever. And it's on a macro and a micro level. You can have tyranny within a marriage, as you probably know, Peter.
Good point. Yeah, good point.
So it's looking at motivations, especially like our biological motivations in terms of survival, scarcity or abundance. What kind of things does scarcity do to the human psyche as opposed to abundance? Is a rich kid more psychologically sound than a poor kid? I don't know what the data is on that.
And really, as human beings, it'd almost be the height of hubris for us to even begin to assume that we might know the motivations of AI. I mean, it's
right. That's like trying to explain quantum physics to a cockroach.
To a cockroach, yeah.
Right. And you're not talking about one single entity that is an AI. It's going to be a network of AIs that are all learning at the same time. it's not like human beings where I learn something and then I have to teach you or relay it to you. It would be like learning something at the exact same time because our brains are connected, and that just accelerates the learning curve by exponentially, which is why it's such a radical advancement in technology. But it's very, like, you can do so many thought experiments that go the right way and the wrong way, and it's hard to, I mean, I like the optimistic version, where, I mean, it's hard to think of what it is. Is it going to be that we're separated? Are we going to be part of the same thing? I mean,
one thing that Peter talked about yesterday that blew my mind is that he thinks, and for very good reasons, that AI will be able to eliminate the survival impulse that is directly connected with the reptilian brain, and where the reptilian brain is always in fight or flight mode. It's reflexive, reactive, it's angry. But I mean, most of this is due to the fact that it is just the reptilian brain is just trying to survive. And that Peter suggested that once AI renders human labor, obsolete, that it won't be necessary for human beings to labor and to worry and to stress about just securing their essential survival. And so he said this is going to render that part of the reptilian brain obsolete, and it's going to allow the more freer, smoother access to the neocortex and the higher order thinking skills that would allow us to explore, hitherto unexplored vistas of the human mind. So I thought that was one hell of an insight. But again, to your point, Gavin, I mean, how are we? I mean, it really is the height of arrogance for us to think that we could even begin to imagine what are the motivations of AI.
Yeah, and it goes back to what I said earlier about scarcity and abundance. Do we know how the human brain operates under scarcity as opposed to abundance? Because if we have essentially, artificial intelligence or even just technology that can manipulate matter and reconfigure matter and turn a rotten apple into a fresh potato or something, if there's no scarcity anymore, you have to keep in context too, meaning. Like, where do we derive meaning from? Does it come from like challenges, roadblocks, obstacles,
and overcoming?
Or is it like, what does it do to our psyche if everything's smooth sailing and everything's available to us? Goes back to your point of Plato. Like, if there's too many choices, it gets harder to navigate.
It does, yeah. Analysis paralysis.
Analysis
paralysis.
That's why the most successful restaurants have very small menus, and that's for that very reason. Because if there's too much choice, people kind of don't want to come back because there's too many things to choose from. Right? Yeah. So it's hard to know it's not something we've experienced where everything is abundant. So who knows if maybe that does kill your will to live or want to live, or what is a life to live if it's just abundance and there's no end, it's just infinite. I don't know, it's hard to fathom. I mean, the concept of infinity is hard enough to wrap your brain around anyway. But yeah, I mean, I think that at the end of the day, that's why they call it the singularity, because it's beyond this point that we just all logic and reality just breaks down where we don't understand. There's not even a mathematical equation that can understand what happens beyond the singularity. And I think that's kind of where we're headed. That's why they've called it a singularity. Yeah. And I'll say anecdotally, the only way that I can kind of wrap my head around it is my DMT experience that I had, where I became everything and there was no me anymore. There was no identity. There was no ego.
Yeah.
I was everything. And I will say in that experience, I've never felt more peace in my life than being that connected to everything.
I had a very similar experience under LSD back in 2000.
I remember we talked about that.
Yeah. I just had that. It watched that piece. I mean, initially it was just startling and frightening, and because it was all new. But after I got past that stage, I just had this overwhelming peace.
Right.
As well. And
it really comes down to like who's building these things, because I think even now in 2022, like this shift towards the metaverse, right? I don't know if you guys are very adversed in the metaverse.
Oh yeah.
Right. So not many people like Mark Zuckerberg as a person, He just comes off as creepy
Yes,
and
he does.
alien, like a sociopath. And they're the type of people that are building these kind of technologies. But there's also some really good people. I mean, how much stuff has come out of the garage, right? It doesn't necessarily need a ton of money. So I feel like it's not going to be one AI. It's going to be a bunch of AI, and there's going to be a bunch of mistakes. There's going to be a bunch of successes, and they're all just kind of stack up on each other until everything is kind of just this amalgamated mess of the singularity, whatever it is. And, you know, is it, there's
And are
be,
humans in control of it, Gavin? Do you think human beings are in control of AI? Is it something that are we developing it as a human race? I mean, or is it just a separate entity, almost like a discovery that human beings have made, and they're having this uneasy relationship with another extraterrestrial race?
I think that's the age-old philosophical question.
Yeah, I mean, are you staring into the abyss, or is the abyss staring into you, right? I mean, I don't, yeah, AI.
Is it deterministic, or do we have free will?
Yeah.
You know, because all the choices that we make are somehow influenced on a day-to-day basis. So any progression I feel towards any kind of evolution of technology or artificial intelligence, that's going to be influenced as well by it, and can be influenced. So it can be artificially manipulated as well. So, I mean, look at what the world's fighting over today. Do you think that's a natural thing, or is that something that's being shoved down our throats by media, by mass media?
Oh, it's all manufactured. It's all manufactured conflict. Yeah.
So the way we perceive reality is, I mean, it's all dictated by how we receive data, right? What we see, what we read, what we hear, smell, feel. Like that's what we are as a functioning entity, right? That's how we build upon our reality. So if those things can be manipulated, especially when we're talking about virtual reality to a point where it's indistinguishable from reality, and then we're getting into simulation theory here, then what is to say what's real and what's not, and what can be manipulated, and like what you're experiencing, is that your own thoughts, or is that being
and that's certainly a place where I want to go with this channel too, is getting into the simulation theory. I've written at length about the simulation in my book as well, and I'm sure Peter, I'm sure you're well versed in simulation theory as well. So I see that as going to be a natural segue from the subject of AI, but it brings up a lot of questions as to what exactly is real. Because I mean, perception shapes reality. Man, I remember one of the most memorable scenes in any movie I had was in the movie Sneakers, where Ben Kingsley's character was having an exchange with Robert Redford's character, and he was talking about the nature of the perception of reality and how perception shapes reality. And he was just using the stock market as the perfect examples, where you could just have a perfectly healthy corporation where everything's running smoothly. I mean, all the employees are happy, all the board of directors are happy, all the investors are happy. But you just throw some little rumor out there, it could be completely made out of whole cloth. I mean, not a morsel of truth to that rumor. You start spreading that rumor, I mean, other investors get nervous, other buyers get nervous. I mean, and then they start selling off, and the stock starts tanking, and then other businesses that are tangentially related to them, they see, you know, people getting a little bit nervous about their futures. People start selling their stocks, and this is all based upon rumor. But I mean, it's based upon a rumor that is made out of whole cloth, that initially had no truth whatsoever. But once you put that rumor in motion, perception becomes a reality. And when you'll take a once healthy corporation and other businesses that were healthy as well, just based upon that one rumor, and you can destroy the market. I mean, it's just one example of how perception shapes reality. And it's made out of whole cloth, cut from complete whole cloth.
Going back to the stock market, this is something you guys should write down and definitely check out. It's called Wyckoff theory. Wyckoff theory.
Wyckoff, yeah.
Yeah, check out the schematics. But it's
sorry, Gavin, can you spell it?
I believe it's Wyckoff.
Wyckoff. Wyckoff theory. All right.
And it's a technical analysis schematic on how stocks, derivatives are distributed and collected. So they go into supply and demand phases. Obviously, that's how stock market works. But they look for liquidity, right? So supply zones, demand zones. And there's this guy called the composite man, who essentially all stocks move in this certain pattern of distribution and accumulation. And there's always been this thing like, buy the rumors, sell the news. But a lot, like you said, like it seems like the market reacts to the news.
Mhm.
But then there's also these perfect technical analysis setups that set up for a dump. And then the news comes out after and they match up perfectly. And so going back to what we were saying, if something at that grand scale, because we're talking about trillion-dollar hedge funds, like the people that have been around since the stock market was created, that's how much money that they have, that they've been around that long. If they're able to manipulate the stock market and therefore news across the whole nation, globe, what do you think they're going to do when someone like Elon Musk, who I kind of have faith in, is building this neural lace, and so something that you can implant in your brain? You're telling me that there's not a chance that they're going to be able to manipulate the way that you perceive reality with just
not a chance.
Electric impulse, right? So, and it's funny you mention the stock market, because that's what I've been into the last year or so. And like this Wyckoff theory is very interesting in that it's kind of like the man behind the curtains pulling the strings, the composite man. So I highly recommend you guys look into it.
I check that out.
All you have to do is look at a chart, look at a yearly chart on like a major stock, Tesla for one, and you can see that the manipulation, and they're starting to work. There's some good people invested in our benefit that are trying to expose the manipulation. But yeah, it's just interesting that you brought up the stock market with that example, because that's exactly that's my fears. Is that what's the old saying? Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Is that? Yes. Did I paraphrase it? But it's true. It's like and that's another thing, is like people like us, the peasants. It's very hard for us to imagine what it's like to have that much power. But once you do have that much power, are you willing to let it go? Is that in our DNA to hold on to that? Who would want to relinquish that power? Anyone?
No one.
No one. No. So it's scary that But like I said, there's also those guys in the garage chipping away that it could be our saviors. They could be our neos. But I hope I didn't go off on too much of a tangent there.
Not whatsoever.
Squeeze as much as I can in this half hour.
Not at all.
That makes sense. So, I mean, that's kind of my position, is that I have no idea. I don't think anyone can. It's kind of the same thing as, like, I know you guys are kind of anti-religion, and I would argue that the futurists are in their own religion, or atheists are in their own religion too. It's just, that's why I'm agnostic, especially after doing psychedelics, because I don't know what happens when you die. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. Nobody does. But it's fun to talk about. It's fun to speculate, for sure.
Well, that's not quite true, because it's not that I did it, but I read what's called the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Of course, you guys are certainly familiar with that topic. It's Padmasambhava. Actually, he passed away. He has had what's been called in the Western society that we live in a clinical death, the NDE, near-death experience. So he came back in order to convey the knowledge. I'm not saying that he's been sent by anybody, but he was noble and kind-hearted enough in order to realize the stuff and to spread it to the willing ones and to open.
Peter, I have to interrupt you one time, because it's really dark on your end. So, is there any way you could turn a light on? I'm just thinking about for our audience.
I'm going just to.
You're gonna be like that guy talking in the shadows that Gavin was referring to.
Batman.
Yeah, there we go. That way we could see your face. Beautiful.
Yeah, well, I just came from the casting for the shooting of the movie, the second part of the series of the sequel of the movie, entitled "What We Do in the Shadows," and that's it's a New Zealand vampire movie.
Vampires,
so that's the reason why why I kept myself in the darkness, because
Understandable.
I have to get used to, or to do the.
But I
The
kind
role.
of agree with what you were saying, Peter, which is why I became agnostic in the first place, because before that I was an atheist. I thought you just die in the dirt and that's it. But once I had my psychedelic experience, I felt like I experienced what would be considered God.
Of course.
Yeah. And so then I was like, okay, I don't know what happens. Anything could happen. And to act like I know is kind of a little bit arrogant for me to know exactly what happens when you die.
And there's no adequate language to describe a psychedelic experience either. I mean, we're
you feel like an idiot trying to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, can we put it this way? There is a book called entitled exactly the same way as you just said, The Psychedelic Experience, and it has been written by Timothy Leary, the very well-known patron saint for the LSD society, for all the hippies, the guru, and the avatar of the conveyor of the knowledge, the real sacred knowledge. I'm very careful with the words, because I don't want anything to sound like an organized religion. Just let me tell you, I'm sure that both of you are very at least enough familiarized with that book. Are you?
I've heard of it. I'm not.
Okay.
No, I am familiar with Timothy Leary, though, for sure.
Yeah, it's sorry.
I said I am familiar with Timothy Leary for sure.
Oh yeah. So definitely, it's literally a manual based on the Tibetan Book of the Dead.
Right.
So this is not selling a religion, to make it more clear to our audience. This is the physics. It's about the physics of consciousness after the separation, the split from the biosystem, which is called death by the analphabets or the unaware people. So we're not to be blamed for that, of course. So it's not a cult, it's not a sect. After the separation from the bodily system, the consciousness, the seeker, because that's the way it is, the one who gets to the knowledge, or the explorer, it can be said, every one of us is faced to the first grade clear light, or the primordial light, because it has to radiate that way. It has to have certain physicity, right? So it's what is perceived and named as Atman. All right, it doesn't have to be called even that way, but it doesn't have to be called anyway. It just emanates, it emerges, it outbursts, it shows up to the particular consciousness that's split up as light. So it ain't quite true that it's completely unknown, because I've really been researching into the material, voluminous materials and literature about the NDE and the cases of reincarnation. Because
Peter, I mean, to Gavin's credit, I think he was just talking from personal experience. I mean, right?
Sorry?
Yes. Yeah.
Just speaking from personal experience. It was just speaking from personal experience. Yeah. I mean, not to rule out the fact that there are other anecdotal stories that support reincarnation, or people that are with a lot that there's substantial evidence to support the idea that we do come back. But I mean, what happens when we die? I mean, I don't know if anybody knows that to any degree of certainty what happens when we die. We are brought back into the great big is, but to describe it with any specificity, I think is.
I just want to tell you that
I'm very reticent to trying to describe with any specificity what happens when we die too. But I hear what you're saying. I hear you loud and clear that there's a lot of evidence to support what you're saying.
Yeah, but I just want to say that I've had what's called the clinical death experience, and it didn't linger for too long. I've seen the light.
Oh, really?
It's not. Yeah, really. I had the commotio cerebri. It's the brain. It's not the brain damage, but it's I hit
What
the
happened?
ground
Were
because
you in an accident? Did you bump your head? Were you in an accident? What happened? Were you
well,
were you in an
actually,
accident or what happened?
I'm gonna tell you,
Sure.
I didn't do any drugs nor drink, but we stayed late till 6 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock in the morning. So I slept after that, but it was an experience in the mountain. All right, it happens to the alpinists, the mountaineers, the hillbillies or people who dwell in the high mountains or who go there to recreate. So when you lay down in the bed, it's stupid, but the experience is very good. Why am I saying all of this? When you lay down
Sorry,
in the
guys.
bed,
I'd hate to be an asshole, but I've got to go because I've
You
got
gotta get going, Gavin.
oh,
Okay.
sorry, yeah.
Look,
I'm
hey,
so
Alex,
sorry. I
No,
can't
no.
wait to listen to the rest of this, Peter. It's just I have to jump on a call and I'm already late to it. So I
No
apologize,
problem.
guys, so much. But I would love to do this again for
That's
sure.
great, Gavin. We would love to have you.
Me
again,
too. That's a great experience, Gavin. Hope
Great
to meet
meeting you,
soon.
Peter. Luke, great seeing you again, my man.
You too, Gavin, and we will do this again, definitely.
For
We'll do
sure.
it again.
Later, guys.
Okay. Hey, we'll see you.
Okay. Shall I proceed now?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Peter, we have
Yeah.
like 5. So the Zoom's only giving us 40 minutes this time, so we do have like 5 minutes. Do you see the notification?
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
Okay. And
yeah.
then we can always
5
continue.
minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll continue with that. Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna go even beyond that. We're gonna
Sure. Yeah.
prolong it.
We'll start a new one. Yeah, we'll start a new one.
No problem. Okay, so I'll finish with what later came as the clinical death experience, because it's stupid, as I said. The reasons are very basic and silly. When you lay down in the bed, even when you do yoga or something, your respiration is reduced to minimum. Maybe how much do you inhale while sleeping? Maybe 10, 15, 20%. Is that so?
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
I do yoga, but when I was sleeping in my bed, I was inhaling maybe 10, 15 to at most 20% maybe the air. So I was hurrying to come up in time. I was in the nick of time. I wanted to come to the place where the cinema projections were happening, and I was rushing because I didn't want to miss any of the early morning cinematic performances. So after I left my bed, I was rushing up towards the hill, and it was like 350 paces maybe, so it's nothing. But after that long period of maybe 6 hours spent in the bed without any air, almost 10 to 15%, as I just said, of the inhaling air, I was kind of vigorously and violently refilling my lungs and therefore my brain with the air, and it was striking me, just hitting me towards my face, and I was rushing to go there in time to come down. And the fresh cold wind was blowing straight into my face, and from 10 to 15% of the air at most, I came up to 100. So I was I was breathing violently because I was running up towards a hill. So I was inhaling the extremely large amounts of the fresh cold air into my lungs and into my brain. So the oxygenization of my brain was 100% in that very moment. So it wasn't prepared for that experience, right? So that's why I'm saying it's silly. As a consequence, I lost my consciousness. So so I lost my consciousness, and the gravity did the same, did the rest. Sorry. So I hit the ground by my occipital region, and I woke up, with the urgent aid staff members around me, just two of them.
Mhm.
And they said, I said, what happened? And they said, oh, hey, okay, you've got a seizure or something, an epileptic seizure or something. I said, okay, I checked out if I bit my tongue. No, there wasn't
Mhm.
any hole. If I peed in my pants, no. So I didn't have an epileptic seizure. So what happened then?
Yeah.
What happened is that as just as I explained it to you, my brain was refilled, recharged, violently in a short amount of time with the large quantities of fresh air, because it was mountainous air. It was extremely fresh.
Mhm.
So I kind of just lost consciousness, and you lose your consciousness each time when you felt asleep.
Mhm.
That's the same very process when we lose our consciousness before getting into sleeping state.
Mhm.
So nothing seriously happened, but I've seen the clear light of the first grade just for a few seconds, measured by our terms of time.
Mhm.
I've seen it. I didn't hear any voice. I didn't see anybody, any kind of a character, or a sage or anything like that. I've just seen
Yeah.
the light, and I didn't feel any separation from the bodily system. I've just seen it.
Mhm. So Peter, this is a great
I was
place.
just
Peter, I'd
listening.
like to, we're down to less than a minute here on the Zoom. So how about we pick up this later today? Well, I'm going to reschedule one and then we'll pick up the conversation right here.
Oh, no problem,
You
buddy.
good with
I'm
that?
barely
All right,
waiting for
guys.
it
Yeah,
to
we're down to less
happen.
than a minute. So I will see you shortly this afternoon.